in his area in Italy. He won it. And then after the Pro Tour that took place in Sydney, he said, you know what, I'm going to book my travel home. I'm going to make sure that I actually come to the Invitational. So his very first Invitational. For the player on the right, Jacob Baugh, this is not his first Invitational at all. He's had a very nice year, has ball number 15 on our Player of the Year leaderboard. And what's unique about this matchup outside of the players, it's the decks that are being played. On one side, you've got Jund. On the other, you got what won Syracuse last weekend? It's Dredge.
And we talked a lot about this on the pregame show of these potentially being the two most influential decks for the weekend here in Modern. Dredge, the breakout deck from last weekend, and Jund, a deck that could respond to this deck very effectively, access to a lot of very powerful anti-graveyard cards, and is also just one of the marquee decks in Modern to begin with.
Now for Jacob Baugh, the player that we're more familiar with of the two, he likes to play the best deck, or is what is perceived to be the best deck. You think about his win earlier this year with 4-Color Rally, for example. He likes to play what people perceive to be the best deck. He's not afraid of the hate or any of that stuff, as you're going to see an Inquisition of Kozilek target Jacob right now. Wrong card for this matchup, I can tell you that much. His hand, a Golgari Thug, a Bloodghast, a Stinkweed Imp, a Haunted Dead over there as well. And that red card, oh, that's Burning Inquiry.
Yeah, that's a new addition to this deck that Jacob Baugh, along with Caleb Schur, came up with. Just another cheap Madness enabler, or excuse me, Dredge enabler.
And that's exactly the card that Mengucci is going to take. Now, we'll take a look at Burning Inquiry here in just a moment, because I know a lot of you probably aren't familiar with that. So we'll take a look at that just weird, wonky spell. As you see, Baugh's going to do a little bit of dredging here. So Life in the Loam, Prize Amalgam, Burning Inquiry are going to go into the graveyard. While the Copperline Gorge, there is the Inquiry that was discarded. Each player just draws 3 cards and then discards 3 cards at random. So as Patrick mentioned, a great dredge enabler. But so is the Insolent Neonate that Baugh played to start the game off.
You want precision, you want Faithless Looting, you want Insolent Neonate, the cards that just work. Burning Inquiry, not the most reliable, but this deck doesn't really play with all that many spells, so anything that might work in your opening hand may be good enough to make the cut.
Now, unfortunately for Baugh, he has nothing to do on his second turn of the game. So he just drew, passed the turn back. For Mengucci, he's going to play a Stomping Grounds untapped. He'll take 2. He's going to fall down to 17. Here is Scavenging Ooze. Now, this one's good in this matchup for very obvious reasons.
Although it's a little bit on the slow side, but with Baugh spinning his tires a little bit here, not off to a very explosive start, Scavenging Ooze may be enough to win this game, targeting things like Prize Amalgam or any other dredge card that Baugh might happen to get in the graveyard.
Now, what Baugh needs right now, he needs a second land. Maybe he needs a Faithless Looting. We'll see. He's going to dredge a Life from the Loam. So 1 is a Gemstone Mine, 2 is a Golgari Grave Troll, and 3 is a Faithless Looting.
A little painful to have to dredge the Loam there with no second mana. But I think the reality here is Baugh just needs to hope to flip over more dredge enablers and outpace Mengucci's ability to get to green mana.
Yeah, the hope here right now, if you're Baugh, is that Mengucci doesn't have another source of green mana, but you can actually see a Wooded Foothills in his hand, which means he has at least 1 more. Now, there are some bad cards here in Mengucci's hand. Thoughtseize, for example, not the most attractive one in this matchup. Dredge doesn't typically care about discard. And as we take a look at Baugh's hand, you'll see that Haunted Dead still there, Prize Amalgam, a Stinkweed Imp, a Golgari Thug, a Bloodghast, and that Life in the Loam that Jacob did just dredge. Mengucci has to take 2, of course, to play the Thoughtseize. He's got to pay 2 life to play that powerful discard spell. And we'll see what card he does want to take. Anything kind of stand out to you here?
I mean, I suppose the Haunted Dead is the hardest thing for Baugh to do anything with long-term, and all the rest of the stuff just plays out of the graveyard. I could see going after the Loam here, which is what Mengucci is doing here, if he's planning on tagging both of the dredge cards right now. I don't know. It doesn't really matter a whole lot.
Yeah.
There's not a hole to pick in that hand, of course, because Baugh is not really playing with spells in the conventional sense.
Mengucci's going to sacrifice a Wooded Foothills here, at least go down to 14, potentially 12. We'll see what land Andrea wants to get. And he'll go with an Overgrown Tomb, so 12 it is. You mentioned the 2 dredgers in the graveyard. There's a Golgari Grave Troll. There's also a Life in the Loam. Maybe he snipes both of those to shut off the dredge engine here for Baugh. And that's exactly what he's going to do. He'll gain a life in the process, given that the Grave Troll is a creature. So Mengucci will float up to 13. Come across here for 3. Ball's going to fall down to 17. We'll go back Jacob's way. He is looking for a land here, folks, in a big way. For now, however, he does have a Greater Gargadon on spend. This provides a unique angle. Maybe this helps him do something.
I suspect we have hit the point of no return here. I think with Mengucci having 2 green mana and Baugh's hand being a dead end, I don't want to say never. You know, I'm getting new to this deck, and I have seen Dredge come back from some pretty ridiculous positions, at least in Legacy. But this feels like a spot that Baugh cannot get out of.
Yeah, it looks like Baugh did forget to remove a suspend counter from the Greater Gargadon, and he's just out of here. He's at the point of no return, just as you mentioned, with Mengucci having 2 green mana available there with the Scavenging Ooze. Baugh just too slow out of the gates. I know a lot of people tuning in this tournament to see exactly if Dredge is the real deal. Well, that game didn't show it, but I think maybe in this next game it will, as we're going to prepare to take a look at the sideboards here, as Andrea Mengucci does win game number 1 here over Jacob Baugh. Jund up a game over Dredge. So I'm going to start with Jacob Baugh and his sideboard. And I got myself a Dark Blast, a Collective Brutality, 4 Leyline of the Void, hello, 2 Lightning Axe, an Ancient Grudge, 3 Nature's Claim, a Nod to the Bone, and then 2 copies of Abrupt Decay. What do we like here and why?
So I like the 2 copies of Lightning Axe here, since Mengucci is playing with creatures and some of them are, anti-graveyard measures. Seems like another easy enabler. The 2 copies of Abrupt Decay can answer some of the anti-graveyard cards you would expect Mengucci to have in this kind of matchup.
On the other side of things here from Mengucci, I'm looking at a lot of one-ofs.
Classic Jund.
Yeah.
Near Highlander sideboard, 2 Kitchen Finks.
Yeah, we'll start with the 2 Kitchen Finks. And then a Thrun, a Pithing Needle, an Ancient Grudge, a Knight of Soul's Betrayal, a Thoughtseize, a Jund Charm, a Painful Truce, a Slaughter Pact, a Kozilek's Return, a Golgari Charm, a Grafdigger's Cage, a Nile Spellbomb, and an Obstinate Baloth. Patrick, what here for the graveyard?
So there's a lot of bad cards in Mengucci's main deck, and that's typically the case with Jund. You have 6 to 8 blanks or near blanks in a lot of matchups, and you clean it up post board. Anything that can interact with the graveyard or the engine here is going to be good for Mengucci. So the Nile Spellbomb, the Grafdigger's Cage, I think the copy of Jund Charm should come in here as well, the Pithing Needle, and I think you can even bring in the Painful Truths because his sideboard cards are so potent that it's worth paying the 3 mana and the 3 life to try to find more of his hits. And he's got so many bad cards here to cut that it's a pretty low opportunity cost to get that in the deck.
All right, well, there are the options there for both players. So we will take a look at game number 2 here in just a moment. But let's talk about one of my favorite promotions, Patrick. StarCityGames.com Game Night.
Love it.
The very fun and popular promotion that you can have at your local store. It's been a huge success, and we want to thank everybody out there, both store owners and players, for making this promotion very popular. Now, this is the most fun part of the show because Patrick doesn't know what's coming next.
So go.starcitygames.com/game night for more information. You can find the game night closest to you. Every month we come out with new pins and tokens that we send to the stores that are signed up for game night. The local stores can then run game night however they want, any format, any day of the week. Just get players in the store on a regular basis for some fun and friendly magic. This is the part of the promotion that I see live for the first time. August, Young Burrowmancer. September, coming down the pipeline. I have seen this one is Bone Chewer Giant. And then how much further down the pipeline do we go? Come on. Hedgehog-a-hog.
There it is.
There it is. Did I get that right?
You got first try.
All right. Hedgehog-a-hog.
Yep.
I take on Atog-a-tog.
Very well done.
An iconic Odyssey rare that eats other Atogs. Anyhow, you want to get signed up for game night, find the game night closest to you, stores, contact your in-store play representative over at Star City Games, and otherwise go to go.starcitygames.com/game night for more information.
Oh, wonderful game night. We do love that promotion, so thank you guys very much for making that a success. And now we learn a little bit more about Jacob Baugh, number 15 on our Player of the Year leaderboard, someone who we've seen win an Open this year.
Yes.
So congratulations to him on that. Number 15, as I did mention, member of Team Card Hoarder, is a 27-year-old from Waterloo, Illinois, with his 9 Open top 8. 2 wins for him. Plays all types of different games, so he's well-versed in strategy card games, tabletop games like Magic, RPGs, PC games, you name it, he loves to play it. Watches around 20 hours of anime each week, and he's a certified auto mechanic, is the 27-year-old who's a member of Team Card Hoarder. Team Card Hoarder, kind of newish on the scene, trying to compete with Team MetaGameGurus.com, and I'll tell you what, Team MGG, they've kind of run the show around here for a little while, but Card Hoarder with Devin Kepke's went a little bit earlier in Season 2. They're making a name for themselves as well.
And just generally a deeper roster, which helps a lot too. But Jim Davis and company definitely have added a level of professionalism to the way that they are engaging with the events and trying to be successful with it, and it's forced other teams to step up their game as well.
It absolutely has, and Team MGG is going to be one of the storylines here this weekend, because if things ended today, 2 of their team members would be headed to the Players' Championship. That's Kevin the Daddy Jones and Andrew Jessup. And for Andrew Jessup, it would be his first time there. For the Daddy, it would actually be his 3rd. He's no stranger to the Players' Championship.
And made a deep run last year as well.
Sure did. So we'll be keeping our eyes on that race. We'll be talking about that race some here as well this weekend as we get ready for game number 2. We'll see if Jacob Baugh can find an opening hand that he does like. First hand seemed very capable as long as he didn't lose that Burning Inquiry, but an Inquisition of Kozilek took care of that, and as a result, kind of took care of the game. Looks like both players are going to keep their hand. They've been given the green light, so Baugh will start with a Mana Confluence. He'll fall down to 19, and here's the very powerful Faithless Looting.
Far and away the best enabler in Modern for this sort of strategy.
And you think about Careful Study way back when, and you even see that sometimes in different versions of the older versions of Dredge. This is almost better. You know, I suppose the question is, do you want blue in your deck or do you want red? This one, because of Greater Gargadon and some other things, definitely wants red.
Historically, blue mana and graveyard strategies have gone together like peanut butter and chocolate. But there's a lot of very good red enablers now. So arguably, red is the mana you'd want more than blue.
It's a Pithing Needle, and the name for this is Greater Gargadon. Going to lock that up.
Mm-hmm.
It is a very important piece to this deck, so a wise name there from Mengucci.
Pithing Needle is a little bit low on the range of things and that it can interact with in this matchup. And you'd rather have as much stuff that can interact with the graveyard as possible. But because any sort of interaction is valuable against this deck, Pithing Needle way above the bar to bring in.
Now you saw Baugh there. He played a Narcomoeba, but just a 1/1 flyer. Now this deck can hardcast some of its threats. It does have enough lands to do so, and it has plenty of colored mana, as here is a Dark Confidant. Baugh in the graveyard. His discard to Faithless Looting was Life from the Loam and Prized Amalgam, so he will dredge Life from the Loam now. Dockmar Salvage is 1, Insolent Neonite is 2, and Bloodghast is 3. Loam can get back a land, that being the Dockmar Salvage. Now how explosive a turn can Jacob Baugh have here? That's the question.
This is really his first opportunity to have a full run at it.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a little light on dredging in the graveyard to pair with the flashback of Faithless Looting.
There's a Stomping Ground. Bloodghast trigger on the stack, it's going to come back. Keep in mind, Baugh did play that Stomping Ground on tap, so he falls a little bit lower, down to 16. In for 1 in the air with the Narcomoeba. Mengucci's going to fall down to 19. Looks like Baugh going to tap some mana. He'll have to take a damage, fall down to 15. 1 mining counter removed from the gemstone. And now it looks like it's going to be time for a Faithless Looting. So he's going to dredge the Dockmar Savage, that's 1. Narcomoeba is a hit. As is that dual land, the Blackcleave Cliffs. And now I think he'll have to take a draw step and discard here. Nothing else to dredge. So he'll discard a Grave Troll, as well as an Amalgam. That's an Narcomoeba coming back.
Prized Amalgam with a kind of awkward delay trigger.
It is a little bit weird. We'll take a look at it very quickly here as Mengucci does reveal a Bloodstained Mire to his Dark Confidant. Prized Amalgam, one of the cards that really did kind of turn on this deck. You see here, the casting cost, well, it's a blue, black, and a colorless, and it's a 3/3. Though the casting cost doesn't matter all that much. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, if it entered from your graveyard or you cast it from your graveyard, weird text, return Prized Amalgam from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped at the beginning of your next end step.
It's an awkward text box, but a lot of the enablers for this sort of thing are going to be Narcomoebas and Zombify type effects.
Yes.
But you also wanted to work for creatures that you would actually spend mana on.
Here's a Grim Lavamancer. That's a Tarmogoyf. We'll figure out the sizing of the Tarmogoyf here in just a moment. But this is exactly what Baugh wants to see happening on the other side of the table.
Exactly. His graveyard is in the clear, and now he's able to just do his thing. I would be shocked if Mengucci can hang on in this game for much longer.
It's a Dredge 6, Gargadon, 2 Grave Trolls, a Gemstone Mine among options here. You see Mengucci taking a look. You also see an Abrupt Decay, which looks like Baugh brought in here for this matchup.
I imagine 2 copies of Abrupt Decay come in almost any matchup because people will have Grafdigger's Cage or something else for you to blow up.
Baugh is going to remove the last mining counter there from the Gemstone Mine. And now it's time to cast Life from the Loam, so he'll target a couple of lands here. Blackcleave Cliffs and 2 Gemstone Mines are returned to Jacob's hand. He'll show those to Mengucci, make sure he knows the information. Kind of the one piece to the puzzle that's missing right now is Bridge from Below.
Yep. Man, Blackcleave Cliffs plus Gemstone Mine is some sweet deck building.
It's a combo right there.
Oh my goodness.
Jacob Baugh going to fall down to 14 from the Mana Confluence, it appears. Here is another hardcast Narcomoeba. And beatdowns in the air. Amalgams aren't in a good spot to attack because, well, that Tarmogoyf's 4/5. So just a couple of flyers here. The beatdown's kind of anemic this game.
Well, this is a starting point, and also remember that Baugh can just sort of start going wide with the Prized Amalgams, assuming that he's got an engine going, because things just come back.
Yep.
So he can just be attacking for free, essentially.
One of the nice things about the Amalgam as well that I don't think we can forget is it looks like everything's going to come in here is that, you know, those things can block.
Yep.
You know, a lot of the time, a card like Bloodghast, some of the other creatures in Dredge, they don't actually get the opportunity to block. Amalgam does a nice job of attacking and blocking, as right now you do see it attacking.
I think the sequencing from Baugh might have been a little bit sloppy. I think he made up his mind about what he was going to do before he actually thought everything through, because I think he would have preferred to keep the land back for a landfall trigger on the Bloodghast before the end of combat here, which would have really mucked up Mengucci's potential blocks here.
An interesting question here as well is if Baugh actually wants a card like Dark Confidant to remain on the table because it has the ability to deal Mengucci a healthy amount of damage. It appears the answer is no.
Every draw step is the possibility of finding Grafdigger's Cage or Leyline of the Void or some other card. I don't think Mengucci's life total is low enough that Baugh could simply sit back and wait for Dark Confidant to finish off the deed.
Mengucci going to play a land. Looks like an Overgrown Tomb enters the battlefield tapped. He will pass the turn back over to Baugh. Baugh's going to untap a couple Narcomoebas, Prize Amalgam, and now he's going to dredge Golgari Gravetroll. 6 cards coming here for Jacob. Copperline Gorge, a Faithless Looting, Blackleaf Cliffs, a Mountain, a Prize Amalgam, and a Copperline Gorge. Gravetroll goes to the hand. That, of course, does replace the draw step. You're going to see that a lot when we watch Dredge this weekend.
Faithless Looting quite the find there.
Oh, yeah.
Still no bridge, as you mentioned.
Yeah, but a Faithless Looting with a lot of dredging might help facilitate that.
Also, Mengucci can get out from under the bridge because he has a Lava Mancer that can shoot itself, so it's not a high leverage hit right now.
Yeah, and that's one of the fun things. I guess fun's maybe not the right word to use.
It's interesting it's in quotes.
Yeah, it's a thing you can do. As here's a Dredge 6 from Faithless Looting. You see Lightning Axe being revealed here among a bunch of lands and a Stinkweed Imp. So that's the first Dredge. And now, here's the second Dredge with Stinkweed Imp. So 5 cards coming. Bloodghast, Prized Amalgam, Mana Confluence, Conflagrate, Greater Gargadon, Abrupt Decay. I think he may have gone one too many. It was supposed to be a Dredge 5, not a Dredge 6, so Abrupt Decay is going to stay put back on top of the deck, and he shuffles the deck. Now, I will say this. When you play Dredge, you got to know how much you're dredging.
Yep.
That's important. It is a weird deck to play if you've never played it before. As now he resolves the final part of Faithless Looting, which is discard 2 cards. He's going to discard 2 copies of Golgari Gravetroll. You got to be careful about that stuff.
And now you're seeing sort of the relentlessness of this deck come into play, where the land here generates a landfall trigger for the Bloodghast. Those come back now. There's Prize Amalgam triggers as well. And even if you have sweepers and blocker and removal, like Mengucci's deck does, just turn after turn, everything gets rebuilt and reassembled.
There's an Abrupt Decay. It's going to take care of a Narcomoeba.
That is a sad Abrupt Decay.
Yes, it is. Grim Lavamancer is going to take care of probably another Narcomoeba. All right, that bites the dust. One's going to come across in the air. Mengucci's going to fall down to 10. And as long as Baugh doesn't forget those triggers for the Prized Amalgams, 2 and 3, he's got a pretty nice battlefield here.
Right, and keep in mind that Conflagrate in the graveyard as well. Would have been lethal next turn if Mengucci didn't pack it up.
Jacob Baugh going to win game number 2 here over Andrea Mengucci. Dredge, Jund going to game number 3. And it really is fitting, I would say, that this is our first matchup of the day, given how we talked about both these decks in the pregame show, and we're heading to a third game.
And Mengucci, I would say, is a little light on the sideboarding for graveyard-based strategies. This looks like a pre-Syracuse sideboard to me.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of anti-graveyard measure, but most of the Jund lists that I saw, people were registering and looking at deck lists this morning, there are multiple copies of Leyline of the Void. People are taking this Dredge deck very seriously. Mengucci, not so much. He's trying to cover other matchups. Game 1, he was able to strand Baugh's hand a little bit there when he didn't have that many enablers. But Game 2, you saw, in the absence of an anti-graveyard measure, Baugh was able to do his thing, and Mengucci's deck of creatures and spot removal just can't really hang around.
Well, we're here in New Jersey. We're in our Season 2 Invitational, and playing Magic's a lot of fun, but playing Magic with something on the line is even more fun, and that's exactly what's going on here. So we take a look at our Invitational payout. Hello, $10,000, 50 SCG points, and an invite to our next Invitational for the winner. We take a look at second place, $5,000, 40 SCG points, an invite to our Atlanta Invitational later this year. Top 4, top 8, top 16, top 32, top 64, so on and so forth. A lot of money on the line, but for the winner, there's a lot more on the line, like an invite to our Players' Championship, an invite and flight to the next Pro Tour Kaladesh in Honolulu. I'll see the winner there. Along with StarCityGames.com Open, you got buys and free entry to the Opens for Season 3. You get free entry to the Classics as well, and the best part, and this is the part to speculate on, that personalized token. Now, what do you think people are going to pick this weekend?
Well, Max Mavidi beat everyone to the punch by getting the clue.
Yes, he did.
If I was playing in this event, I would just run the clue back.
Oh, you want clue dominance?
Right. Well, I mean, Wizards printed how many different 4 or 5 clues?
True.
And yeah, I would just feel like I would push for mine to be really well designed, well executed, and then Max Mavidi's token, it would be like it never happened. That's how I would handle it.
just a little clue dominance. Now,
Right.
I think I might go towards a zombie.
Zombie's not a bad choice.
I think I might go towards a zombie here. So, you know, I love Sam Black's zombie. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a beautiful piece of artwork. But I think it's been around long enough. It's time for a new zombie.
Yeah.
Some zombie dominance here. So, you know, you've got this deck that makes zombies with Bridge from Below. You've got Liliana Last Hope. And that emblem happens more than you think. And then Sam Black's blue-black kind of zombie madness deck make a lot of zombies. I'm saying there's a little space for another zombie token out there.
It's true. Very cool to see Mengucci at this event. Do not get a whole lot of international flavor at these things.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because the one invitational where it seems like we get the most international flavor is the New Jersey one.
Yep.
I think of Thomas and Voltson a couple of years ago, along with the rest of that crew from the Netherlands. I think about, we've seen some Japanese players come to this tournament before as well. So maybe it's because of location, maybe it's because New Jersey's the best.
Well,
That's why they come here.
You know, it's not a bad flight to get into JFK or Newark if you're coming from Europe and you're used to traveling overseas. Very nice to meet Mengucci for the first time this morning. I mean, we know each other through Magic Circles, but I never have met him in person before. Unfortunately, Michael Majors ruined it a little bit. He introduced the two of us together, and he introduced Mengucci in his best Waluigi accent. Like I didn't know the dude was from Italy. I mean,
Michael.
But Mengucci was very graceful about it, in spite of his friend's sort of faux pas there.
Yes. Are we using the term friend loosely here?
I don't know how close the two of them are.
They're actually pretty good.
Yeah,
friends.
I would imagine. You know, if Majors feels close enough with him that he can do that, it gotta be pretty tight.
Well, we will see Andrea Mengucci on the play here. It looks like he is scrying from a mulligan. Top card's going to go to the bottom. We'll be underway here for game number 3 of round number 1. Right now, it's a Bloodstained Mire to start here for Mengucci. Now, he's looking at an Inquisition of Kozilek, but he might also be looking at a little something else. He's going to sacrifice that Bloodstained Mire. One thing to keep in mind, he does have a copy of Raging Ravine in hand. He did not start off with that land that enters the battlefield tap. He's decided to go to 17 instead with an Overgrown Tomb, and I think probably a discard spell.
I mean, this is the spot to have it on the play on the first turn. Baugh's going to keep a lot of hands that just have one enabler, and if you happen to tag it, his hand could dead end in the same way that it did game 1.
Well, let's see what his hand does have. Conflagrate, a couple of lands here. Bridge from Below, Bloodghast, Golgari Grave Troll, along with Dockmore Salvage, excuse me, Mana Confluence, and Copperline Gorge. I think the plan may have been here to draw and discard.
I think so. None of these cards are great to tag with the discard spell. They all function out of the graveyard.
Yeah.
But it does set Baugh behind a turn if the plan was to draw discard to hand size and then get the ball rolling that way.
All right, well, there goes Conflagrate. Baugh will draw. Another, I think, Dalkmore Salvage. He's going to play a land, pass the turn back. It's a weird hand here from Jacob. Now, for what it's worth, it only takes one draw step to make his hand be on.
And he had the red enablers,
Yep.
and the ball is rolling.
And, you know, Jun doesn't really put on that fast of a clock.
Well, this seems like a great spot if Mengucci can follow up with Tarmogoyf here and start applying pressure with Baugh's hand clearly on the slow side.
Yeah.
So I think Mengucci now probably considering the implications of a Conflagrate next turn on the flashback.
You see here, red, discard X cards.
Right.
In a way, Mengucci actually kind of gave him an enabler.
Well, there was
Bridge and Bloodghast for the other
right.
options.
Yeah, there's no way to poke a hole in the hand. The discard spell was not good for him.
Yeah.
And he knows that Baugh already has the second red mana rolled up in hand.
Yeah, he's got the Mana Confluence over there, I believe. There is Thoughtseize. Well, here's the garbage. I drew a land. Don't pick Grave Troll unless you have Surgical Extraction. All right, pick Bridge. Nice. You had to pay 2 life to take a bridge.
Yep.
Nice. There's the other red source. Blackleaf Cliffs. Draw a card here, will Baugh. Didn't get a great look at it. May have been an Archimedes. There's that. Blackleaf Cliffs enters the battlefield on tap. It's kind of interesting, right? Does he just want to fire off Conflagrate here?
You know, if his graveyard gets nuked, he's just dead. But I think his hand doesn't have really anything else going on anyway.
It's interesting because, you know, does he say maybe, okay, I want to save this for whatever creature you play? Well, he's going to discard a couple of cards here. He's just going to play Conflagrate. He's going to dome Mengucci for some damage. He's going to discard Bloodghast, Dockmore Savage, and Golgari Grave Troll.
Baugh does not have, from his perspective, he does not have all the time in the world because you don't know when one of the anti-graveyard cards is going to come down and just ice you, so you've got to just go.
Like the Scavenging Ooze that Mengucci just drew?
For example.
Yeah. Which appears to be very good in this spot because it's going to take Baugh's one Dredger.
You know, Ooze on the draw especially, or when the Dredge deck is firing on all cylinders, too slow, but Baugh's hand here took a little while to get going, and Scavenging Ooze getting rid of the Grave Troll now, and it might just wrap this up pretty fast.
Well, gonna Dredge Salvage. Couple of lands there.
But no hits, no graveyard enablers.
And Mengucci knows the contents of Baugh's hand. It's not good. Get back Bloodghast. He's tapping mana for something. Narcomoeba. Well, Scavenging Ooze wins this war. That's the best creature going right now.
It is my favorite part of the Dredge experience when the poopy beatdowns start getting fired.
The mediocre beats.
Love it. Love it.
I did used to take great pleasure back in the day of recasting Stinkweed Imps and beating down with them.
Yeah, casting the Thug.
Yes. It was a lot of fun to win games that way.
And at this point, I think Baugh is basically drawing to just Abrupt Decay, and even then he has to get the ball rolling again after that. And that is the look of a man who is aware of both of those things.
And all he can do is pass the turn back now. Scavenging Ooze looks like it might eat something. And it will. Bridge from below. See you later. Now the power and toughness of Tarmogoyf is going to fluctuate a little bit here. Ooze is kind of eating things, removing enchantments, keeping enchantments down there. But at the end of the day, both of these creatures are attacking, and Baugh has no good blocks. These creatures are not particularly good blockers. Dan, nod your head if you can hear me. Please move the Tarmogoyf die down and turn it. Another Tarmogoyf here from Andrea Mengucci. It's a Faithless Looting here from Baugh.
Mengucci wisely with a green up here so he can respond to anything.
Yep. Baugh's going to discard 2 cards, of course. No dredging to be done. Mengucci's made sure of that thanks to the Scavenging Ooze management. Dockmore Salvage, Gemstone Mine. Next up here for Baugh, he's going to take a point of damage. It's Abrupt Decay. Well, you said it had to be something like this.
But now there's the issue of can Baugh get back on his feet again with the dredging before he gets killed. That seems very hard.
Faithless Looting down. Pass the turn back. Tarmogoyf's power and toughness, it appears, is going to move up for 5. Draw a card. Mengucci staring at multiple lightning bolts, but only one red source of mana. Goyfs are coming across. Baugh is predictably blocking. He's going to fall down to 5. Jacob Baugh's going to need one heck of a turn here. Mengucci with a Thoughtseize. Take a look at that hand. There's a Neonite. That's actually a good card to have left over. That's gone now too.
Yeah, I think Baugh's discards were soft enough on the Faithless Looting last turn that Mengucci could assume that he had a real spell in hand.
Yep. Smart play there by Andrea. Baugh will draw a card. I believe it was a Narcomoeba, and that is going to do it. Andrea Mengucci is going to win this match here over Jacob Baugh. 2-1. Jund going to take care of Dredge. 2 of the most played decks in Syracuse last weekend, but it's good old Jund. Nothing beats Jund, apparently, coming out on top. So congratulations to Jund fans, and more importantly, Andrea Mengucci, his first win, it looks like, in the Star City Games tournament.
52% of the time, it works every time.
Sure does.
Classic Jund.
It sure does.
Baugh there, you know, the games he lost, it just took him a little bit too long to get off the ground, and Scavenging Ooze was able to dominate the game. I don't think that's typically going to be the case in the dredge draws that are happening very fast, and we saw the game that Jacob won. The ball got rolling, and there was no way that something like Scavenging Ooze was going to get Mengucci back into the game.
Yep.
But his more ponderous draws, that level of interaction was sufficient, backed up by some, you know, precise discard spells and some other pieces of interaction.
Oh, you saw game 2 what Dredge is actually capable of doing, and if you watch SCG Syracuse last week, and you saw it a lot as Ross Merriam and Tom Ross kind of dominated that tournament. Now, I don't know if that's an accurate representation of what we just watched. You know, Baugh's draws were kind of mediocre. In game 2, his deck looked basically unstoppable. But one thing that's more important than anything is that Mengucci doesn't have a lot of hate here this weekend. You know, there's nothing in your face like for Leyline of the Voids. He's going to have Scavenging Oozes anyway. It's good across the format, and it's just a good Magic card in general. We saw some cards like a Jun Charm in the sideboard. He's got, I think, one Cage, some one-ofs here and there in his, you know, Highlander sideboard. But it appears as though he's respecting the matchup, but he's not going to tweak his deck so much to try to beat it. Maybe because he thinks there's not going to be that much of it here this weekend.
And you know, we talked a little bit about this on the column in Star City Games, where I didn't think this deck was going to be that prevalent. Not because the deck isn't powerful, but we're talking about 5 or 6 days to get all the cards and learn a new deck, and a deck that, you know, it has a bullseye on it, and there's cards that people said we can't beat these cards. They weren't here in Syracuse. People will probably have it this weekend in New Jersey.
Yep.
I don't think that it's going to be a radical shift in the metagame to everyone playing this deck this weekend, even though it's quite powerful. Maybe it's still the best deck in the room to have for this tournament, but I didn't think